Welcome to Not That Girl Anymore, part of the Liminal Network. I'm your host, Dawn Bouillon. This is more than a podcast. It's a sisterhood. We're reclaiming our voices, our worth, and our lives. One story, one truth, one brave step at a time.
Hey, friends. Welcome back to Not That Girl Anymore. I'm your host, Dawn Bouillon, trauma therapist and coach, and the founder here of Embrace Your Brave. And I want to talk about a conversation that's been gaining some attention lately. And if you haven't heard about it, the basic idea is there's a growing concern that therapists are encouraging people to become estranged from their families. And that therapy is convincing people their parents are abusive and encouraging them to cut off relationships and contributing to the breakdown of families. And that's a serious concern. Families matter, relationships matter. And if therapists are truly encouraging unnecessary estrangement, we should absolutely be willing to have that conversation. Every profession should be open to accountability. But I've got to be honest. This conversation has really been bothering me. And not just because I'm a therapist. Therapists don't need me to defend them. It bothers me because I can't shake the feeling that once again, we're talking about everything except the real problem. Instead of asking why so many people are walking into therapy, carrying deep wounds from the people who are supposed to love and protect them, we're asking if the people helping them heal are the problem. And I think that's the wrong question. The conversation should not be, why are therapists encouraging family estrangement? The conversation should be, why are so many people saying that they never felt safe or loved in their own families? Because until we're willing to ask that question, then we'll never get to the root of the problem. And can I tell you what I've never experienced? Never, not once, has someone sat down in my office and said, can you help me cut my family out of my life? Never. What I do hear is, am I crazy? Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm too sensitive. Why do I always feel guilty? Why do I keep questioning myself? How much more am I supposed to take? Why do I feel like I'm disappearing? Those are the conversations. They're not looking for someone to tell them to leave. They're looking for someone who can help them make sense of what they've been living. And someone who won't dismiss them. Someone who won't tell them they're imagining things. And someone who can help them understand why they hurt so much. You know, I think one of the saddest parts of this conversation is that we're only talking about the last chapter. We see the boundary. We don't see the years that made it necessary. We see the distance. We don't see the countless attempts to repair the relationship. And we see the estrangement. We don't see the pleading, the explaining, the forgiving, praying, the hoping, the holidays that were ruined and that ended in tears, the conversations that began with, can we please just talk? Most people don't wake up one morning and decide they don't want a relationship with their family. And most people spend years trying to save it. I've watched people rehearse conversations in my office because they were terrified saying the wrong thing. I've watched them write letters that they never sent. I've watched them celebrate one small act of kindness because they thought, maybe this means things are finally going to change. I've watched them give second chances, 10th chances, 50th chances. People don't usually walk away because they stop loving. They walk away because they finally realize that love cannot heal a relationship by itself. Love cannot create accountability for another person, and love can't force someone to change. And eventually they ask a heartbreaking question. Not how do I leave, but how much more of myself do I have to lose trying to keep this relationship? And that's a very different question. And there's another part of this conversation that really concerns me, too, because it assumes that survivors can't think for themselves. Like, think about what we're saying. We trust adults to choose who they marry, where they work, what they believe, how to raise their children. But if they conclude that a relationship with a parent or a spouse or a sibling has become unhealthy or unsafe, then suddenly we assume someone else must have planted that idea, usually a therapist. Do you know how painful that is to a survivor? Many of them wrestle with these questions for years before they ever walked into therapy. They question themselves long before anyone else questioned them. They defended the people that hurt them. They blamed themselves. They stayed because they loved their family. To suggest they couldn't possibly arrive at these conclusions on their own, it just takes away their voice all over again. A good therapist doesn't tell people what to think. A good therapist helps people reconnect to themselves. In my experience, the greatest struggle isn't deciding whether to leave, it's deciding whether they are allowed to matter and whether their safety matters and their emotional well-being matters. Whether they can love someone without abandoning themselves. I don't think people realize how impossible that choice feels. It's rarely do I love my family. It's can I continue having this relationship without continuing to lose myself? And that's agony. I've cried with people who would have given almost anything for the relationship to become healthy. People who would have celebrated reconciliation. People who still love deeply. They weren't looking for an exit. They were looking for hope. So what does therapy actually do? It doesn't teach people to hate their families. It doesn't hand out permission slips for estrangement. It helps people reconnect with themselves. Trauma teaches people to ignore their instincts, to question their memories, to minimize their pain, to silence their needs, to believe everyone else matters more than you do. And healing is the process of remembering I matter too. And sometimes that is the hardest lesson of all. One of the things that really concerns me is one of the hallmarks of abusive systems is that attention gets redirected. Instead of talking about the harm, we talk about the reaction. Instead of asking why someone finally spoke up, we question the people who listened. Instead of asking why someone needed therapy, we ask whether therapy is the problem. Do you see what happens? The focus quietly shifts away from accountability. And that scares me. Because until we are willing to hold abusive people and abusive systems accountable, we will keep blaming everyone else. We'll blame the therapists. We'll blame books, podcasts, support groups. We'll blame the friend who finally believes them. We'll blame everyone except the abuse that brought them into my office in the first place. So hear me out. I love families. I am a family girl. Just ask my kids. Ask my parents, my brother. I love families. And I believe families are worth fighting for. I pray for reconciliation. I celebrate reconciliation whenever it's possible. There's nothing more beautiful than watching a family tell the truth take responsibility, repair what was broken, and begin again. But reconciliation without truth isn't reconciliation. It's pretending. Forgiveness without accountability isn't healing. It's self-abandonment. And asking someone to sacrifice themselves to preserve the appearance of a family does not heal families. It protects dysfunction. So maybe it's time we ask a different question. Not why are therapists encouraging estrangement? But what happened that made someone believe they could no longer survive by continuing to abandon themselves? Because no little girl dreams of growing up and walking away from her mother. No little boy dreams of protecting himself from his father. People don't grieve relationships that they never wanted. They grieve the relationships they desperately fought to save. And families aren't healed by protecting the image of the family. They're healed by protecting the people inside the family. And until we're willing to tell the truth about abuse, until we're willing to hold abusive people and abusive systems accountable, we will keep blaming everyone except the thing that broke the family in the first place. My hope isn't for more estrangement. No, my hope is for fewer people who ever have to consider. My hope is for families whose children are safe and where the truth is welcomed and where accountability is embraced and where repair is possible and where no one ever has to choose between belonging and becoming who they were created to be. Because that's what healing is about. It's not about breaking families apart. It's about helping people stop breaking themselves apart just to keep everyone else comfortable. So I think this is an important conversation. I think once again, we're focusing in the wrong direction. And we are directing attention to the wrong thing, off the harm and onto the response. And I don't want us to get caught up in that. I don't want us to get tricked again by the system that wants to keep the attention on the one that's been harmed and off the thing that's harming them. So let's be better. And thank you so much for being here. Keep choosing courage. Keep telling the truth. Keep coming home to yourself. And remember, you're not that girl anymore.
Friend, just a quick note. I am a licensed therapist, but this podcast isn't therapy. It's not meant to diagnose or treat anything. It's here to offer you support, encouragement, and real conversation. If you're struggling, please reach out to a trusted professional. You are not alone, and you are so worthy of healing. Even if your voice shakes, keep using it. Your healing matters. If you're ready to go deeper, you can book a session by clicking the link in the show notes or visiting our website, embraceyourbrave.org, to learn more about our therapy and trauma-informed coaching options. Let's explore how we can walk this journey together. You are not alone. Embrace your brave, sis. You're not that girl anymore.